Erev Tov, welcome back. Tonight's year, it's called Living Yetzias Mitzrayim. Personal exodus can happen every day for all of us. So let's begin. In these parshos, the Jewish people are leaving Egypt. It's happening mamish now. Vayhi be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this very day. Hoitzi Hashem es bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. This is a fulcrum. It's a total point of inflection in the whole narrative of the Torah, that the Jews are leaving Egypt. And that's such a huge thing in, of course, the history of mankind, the Jewish people, the birth of the Jewish people. And for each and every one of us, it happened not just then, thousands of years ago, but it happens all the time. And I'm going to show you how in our religious lives. So the word Mitzrayim, which of course means Egypt in Lashon Kodesh, is comprised of a word Meitzar. And we have in Tehillim Kuf Yud Ches, Mina Meitzar Karosiko Anoni Vamerchavko. And you remember in Rosh Hashanah, right before we blow the shofar, we recite this pasuk that I called out to Hashem from constriction, from the straits, the Meitzarei Gibraltar, the Straits of Gibraltar. So Meitzarim are boundaries, borders of constriction. So ancient Egypt is symbolic of the constriction of this world that man finds himself in, where there's no rain in Egypt, the heavens are not open to God, and everything is very concrete. And they achieved incredible things within the confines of the concrete world, but Lamais, it's very limited. It's all about the world of the senses and materiality. And they were experts in the development of drugs and architecture and so many things. But that's very limiting, and that's not the point of mankind. So God had to take us out. The hoitzi, Hashem pulled us out with an outstretched arm and a yad chazaka, a strong hand. He pulled us out of the constricted existence of ancient Egypt to bring us to, of course, the promised land. So, as I said, it's not something that just had happened once, but it's an ongoing process, and it's personal for all of us. I have here a beautiful painting from Yoram Ranan, the Jewish people leaving Egypt. Looks like they're facing Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the Red Sea. So we recall this all the time in our prayers. I just davened Ma'ariv this evening, and we say, Ha'oise lanu nisim u'nekama b'far'o, oisois u'moifsim be'admas b'nei Cham. So we recall that Hashem did miracles and vengeance against Paro, wonders in the land of Cham, the son of Noach. So Paro, again, he's the ancient emperor of Egypt, and yet he's still a figure in our lives every day. We keep mentioning him. So we talked last time about what Paro symbolizes, the reptilian brain, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But that we're in this ongoing struggle to get out of Egypt and to take vengeance against Paro is something that, again, it's not history, it's here, it's now. So many of the mitzvahs of the Torah are characterized as being Zecher Litzias Mitzrayim. I took here words from Kiddush. Zecher L'Maisav Bereshis, Tchila L'Mikroi Kodesh, Zecher Litzias Mitzrayim. So even Kiddush on Shabbos is Zecher Litzias Mitzrayim. I'm going to talk this evening more about Tefilin. Leila Seder, of course, all the mitzvahs of the Seder, we go through the whole Exodus, the narrative, and we eat the stuff, and we drink the wine. So we're acting out the Exodus, and we make that bracha of Goal Yisrael. And I'd like to focus on that bracha tonight of Goal Yisrael, that when we make that bracha, and of course we make it in the morning, we make it in the evening, the Gemara Brachas teaches us, Eizehu ben olam haba, ze hasoymech geula letfila. One who stands in prayer immediately after he's experienced geula, that he was soymech geula letfila. So we make this bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Goal Yisrael. And then we begin the Shmona Esrei, both in Shachris and in Ma'ariv. In Ma'ariv, we put in Hashkivenu. There's beautiful Rabbeinu Yonah that explains, just like the redemption from Egypt took place in prayer and in a night of fear of the death of the firstborn, and the Jews were essentially hiding inside their houses with the blood of the Korban Pesach on the lintel and the doorposts, and they were praying that Hashem should spare them from the dangers of the night. So too, that's how we daven Ma'ariv every night. Goal Yisrael, mitoch tefillah shel hashkivenu, and then we stand and pray. So Yitzias Mitzrayim, again, it's really central. It's in so many of our mitzvahs. The Torah itself uses the term countless times. So let's take a look. Again, at Paro's continuing presence, I talked about the reptilian brain, that the oisios, the letters of Paro, Pei, Resh, Ayin, Hey, spell backwards Ha'oref, which is the back of the head, where the spinal cord is, where the reptilian brain is, that part of us which is so physical, doesn't have any sense of any higher calling at all. We have higher brains, the limbic brain for feelings, and we have the neocortex, our rational brain. And so all of us are abde paro on a certain level. Each one of us has this reptilian brain inside that we sometimes follow that and we respond to everything just as like a selfish lizard or a crocodile. And that's the struggle that we all really go through, a struggle of musar and of ethics, of being avdei paro. Are we still servants of Pharaoh, or are we avdei Hashem? Because that's really the Exodus, leaving the existence, the constricted material existence of ancient Egypt, of the material world that we're still bound in, or are we able to rise up above that and really transcend the boundaries of this physical world and a world of mind, a world of heart, a world of closeness to God, which is beyond all dimensions. So we strive to be Avdei Hashem. The highest praise for the greatest man, Moshe Rabbeinu, Eved Hashem, Eved Neman, B'chol Beisin, Eved Neman Hu. In Kabbalah, in the Kabbalah literature, there's a term called Moichin de Katnus and Moichin de Gadlus. And I'm talking tonight a little bit about neurology. Again, I'm gonna bring some words of the Ramban about neurology. So even in the Kabbalistic terminology, they talk about constricted mind or expansive mind. Moichin de Katnus. Katnus here could be, of course, being young, but it's more about being stuck in small stuff, being caught up in the minutiae without seeing the forest for the trees. Whereas Moichin de Gadlus, we all have that sometimes where you're in the zone and your mind is free. And so you're able to fathom things that you ordinarily may not be able to grasp. We have a new president in the United States. Some of my Republican friends maybe aren't so happy about President Biden, but after all, he's the president. So he said something that reminded me of this concept here of the three brains. He said his love for Israel starts in his stomach, it goes through his heart, and it ends in his head. So it's a beautiful statement that he has a visceral sense of identity with Israel. He's been a long friend of Israel since the time of Golda Meir. He feels it in his heart, not only in his belly, that's in his emotional place, not the limbic brain, and then up into his rational head. Of course, Israel is one of the greatest friends of the US. They have tremendously fruitful collaboration in the field, of course, of weapons and defense against the war on terror, the international war on terror. So, of course, it's a rational thing. So on all those levels, we hope and pray that it should be good years for Israel and the US under the leadership of new President Biden. But I want to talk about Tefillin. Okay, of course, Biden has Jewish grandchildren, so I guess they'll wear Tefillin. I don't know if they've had bar mitzvah yet, but let me share the pasuk about Tefillin. V'hoya lecha la'ois al yodcha u'zikaron b'neinecha ki biyad chazaka hoitzi'acha Hashem mitzrayim. The verse in the end of Parshas Bo about the commandment of wearing tefillin between your eyes, which is up here, not here, between your eyes where there's hair, the same place that you're not allowed to tear your hair out if you're in mourning. And of course, on your arm, I'm a lefty, so I wear it on my right arm. And that place on your arm is across from your heart. So in the head, we're going to see right now, the Ramban talks about exactly what place on the head is it. And I have a little article here from the Journal of Chinese Medicine. I don't know much about acupuncture, never done it. I have a friend who's an expert. This says tefillin is an ancient acupuncture point for prescription for mental clarity. And they do research and they show different points on the skull and where the brain, how the brain is situated in the skull, and that where we put tefillin on is in a really key place to affect our memory and our mental clarity. So those are really the words of the Ramban. The Ramban here on this parsha says that the tefillin l'totafot b'neinecha sheyunachu b'makom hazikaron. The tefillin should be in the place of memory. Remember, the Ramban, he wasn't a modern neurosurgeon, but he was a doctor. And so he's talking neurology here, that it's a place of memory at this part of the brain, bein ha'inayim, shu reshit hamoach, the top of the brain, ve'hem makifim et kol harosh. Of course, the tefillin, they encompass the whole head, beretzu otehem, and the straps, the leather straps. Ve'akesher shehi al acharit hamoach mishmar hazchira. And then the tefillin, of course, are tied in a knot, a dalid, at the back of the head, at really the base of this, where the spinal cord meets the brain, really at that point where the reptilian brain goes down to the rest of the body. And I want to continue my analysis of tefillin in this way, that we're wearing our tefillin to recall the Exodus, to relive the Exodus, and to go from the reptilian brain and to crown the neocortex, the rational brain, above it. And then the straps of the tefillin, that again, they're taking all our mental faculties. And let me expand upon that. You know, the tefillin, shel yad, are a single bayit. They're one single housing unit that houses all four of the parshios which are in the tefillin. They're written on a single parchment, and they're rolled up and put into the shel yad. In the shel rosh, there are four separate compartments. And so there are four separate parshios that tefillin is mentioned in, and those are put into those four compartments of the shel rosh. So I just want to explain briefly that in the tefillin shel rosh, which corresponds to the mind, so the mind is analytical. So things are broken up into four different pieces because there's lots of things going on in the brain, as we see. Whereas the tefillin shel yad, which is a place that corresponds to your heart and to your deeds, it's where you reach out and do stuff. You give stuff and you take stuff. You make war and peace with your arms, with your body. So that needs to be unified. You need to be analytical of mind and unified in deed and heart, okay? So that's the four compartments of the tefillin, the shel rosh, and the one compartment on the hand. But how far down should the straps of the tefillin, shel rosh, come down? And the answer is in the Kesef Mishnah in the Rambam, in Hilchos Tefillin, third parak, halacha yud beis, tzad yamin ad hamila, v'shel smol ad hatabor. So this was so fascinating when I found this, that the right side should extend down to the bris milah, okay, the reproductive organ, and the left side should go down to your belly button, to your navel. Those two things, if you think about what those symbolize, we have the tefillin, which is sitting on your collective national memory of the Exodus from Egypt. And it's taking all the faculties of your mind and it's combining them at the back. And now it's extending down to guide your body, that your body should listen to your head and not the other way around, right? You don't want your head making excuses for the behavior of your body. You want your body living up to the expectations of your rational mind. How far down on your body? Well, where do people get into trouble, right? Their bris milah and their belly. The bris milah is reproduction, that's tzad yamin, that's tzad chesed. And the tzad small, the left side, the side of taking, is where you eat and take stuff for yourself into your belly. So the tefillin is meant to bring the kedusha, your recognition of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, God is one. Take that with your collective memory, the unified understanding of your role, and send that message down through the spinal cord all the way down to your bris milah and down to your belly. So that's a prescription for using the tefillin to get to Yetzias Mitzrayim. What I have now is a schematic of how we can participate and experience Yetzias Mitzrayim every morning. When we daven Shachris, I call it the morning journey of prayer, the Exodus. And I have here a true schematic. We're going to start from the bottom. And I'm starting with a concept here in the Kabbalah of four oilamos, four universes, I'll call them, more than even worlds. And some of the Sidurim, the Chassidic Sidurim or a Kabbalistic Sidurim, they actually have this marked on the top of the pages, that they break the Shachris service into four parts corresponding to an ascendance through these four universes. And it sounds, esoteric and, so what do I care? But the truth is we could sort of tap into this energy and experience it and understand it and really do this every day. And then I think you can really get to something in your davening. So of course, the lowest of the worlds is called Olam Asiya. It's the world of deed. It's the world of stuff. It's the world of action. It's where we live, right? We all know this world. We eat and drink here and do everything else in the Olam Asiya. I put here a picture of sheep because in terms of our davening, that's where korbanos, that's where we read the korbanos. It's a physical world where we put on talis and tefillin. We're actually doing stuff. It's physical engagement with the divine injunctive. The next oilam is the oilam yitzira. It's a world of creation, formation, I guess is a good translation. It's based on a pasuk in Yeshayahu where Hashem says, "Kol asher asisi, yitzarti, barativ, lichvoidi asitiv," etc. So these ascending oilamos, the world of Yitzira is the world of the angels. So I wrote Malachim there, and we are like the angels when we are singing God's praises. So the Psukei de Zimra, the 10 or 15 minute service of reciting the Psalms and other verses, that is a Jew. He's now in his talis and tefillin. He is singing the praises of God. He's ascending from the Olam Asiya and putting himself up in corresponding to the Olam HaYetzira. The next Olam up is the Olam Bria, the world of sort of abstract creation. It's associated with the Kisei HaKavod, God's throne of glory. I don't have a picture of God's throne of glory. I didn't, dare to put one there, but I have here some sort of staircase up to the heavens. And this is Shema Yisrael, Birkus Kriyat Shema, and Shema Yisrael itself, which is Kabbalas Ol Malchut Shemayim, the acceptance of the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. So I'm being makabel on myself. I'm accepting upon myself. God is the boss, and I will do what he says, no matter what it entails, including my life, right? That is the world of the Kisei, the Olam Abriya. And then we get again to this point of inflection where we're ready to really leave this world and get to a world that's kulo toiv, the world of Atzilus. And that word Atzilus, your elbow is also called the Atzilim sometimes in Lashon Kodesh. It's a world of extension and of connection, and different than the other three worlds, which are all created, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. But the Olam of Atzilus is entirely divine. So you're now up in the realm of the divine. You're standing in the divine presence. And we call that prayer the Amidah, which means the prayer of standing. You're standing there. And so I put a picture here of a Jew in talis and tefillin, standing in prayer before Hashem. And so we've gone through a Yetzias Mitzrayim. We've experienced the Exodus. As we finish Birkus Kriyat Shema, we say, Baruch Atah Hashem, Goal Yisrael, you redeem the Jewish people. In the Shmoneh Esrei, we say, Goel Yisrael. We have another bracha that we are praying for Geula, because we experienced the Geulas Mitzrayim. We are praying for the Geula Atidah, the future redemption. Let it come b'mheira v'yameinu. And we are doing that from this place of Exodus, of having left Egypt. We've left the material world, and the spiritual realms are open before us. So we have this really golden opportunity. It's a shame to miss this. And you could do it. Every morning, we do the same thing in Ma'ariv, where we say Goal Yisrael, and we're sort of elevated up into a world of spirituality where we stand before the divine. So we're really blessed that we have this great opportunity to experience Yetzias Mitzrayim. We can live Yetzias Mitzrayim. Halavai that Hashem should bring us Yetzias Mitzrayim from the current pandemic. We should get to a better place of Geula, b'mheira v'yameinu. I bless everybody, and thank you for being with me. See you again next time.